Son become the subject from that point on through what we've read. And we just want to notice how everything is focused upon his dear Son. In whom? What we need to notice is all the pronouns referring back to his dear Son. We see the statements that he is something. We see that he has done many things. And you need to notice the prepositions relating to him: in, through, by, and for. From verse 13 through what we've read, it's all about Christ. So notice, in whom, that is his dear Son, we have. We have certain things in him. And what is mentioned is redemption. And this redemption is through his blood. Even the forgiveness of sins. Who, still referring to his dear Son, is the image. That is, he represents the perfections of God. Who is the image of God? He is a picture of God, a reflection of God. Who is the image of the invisible God. God is spirit. Jesus Christ is the image, the physical image of the invisible God. The firstborn. The firstborn. That speaks of rank. You go back to the Old Testament, the firstborn. It speaks of rank. It speaks of preeminence. So he is the firstborn of every creature. For by him, again, his dear Son, who is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of every creature, for by him were, past tense, all things created. Everything created was by him, that are in heaven and that are in earth, speaking of the created. Visible and invisible, speaking of the created. It's all by him. All by him. Whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were, again, past tense, created by him. And then notice, and for him. Weren't simply created for us. They were. But more importantly, they were created for him. Everything's about him. Everything's about this dear Son. Then verse 17, and he is this dear Son. Now we're in the present tense. And he is before all things. And by him, all things consist or continue to consist. And he is. He is the head of the body. So there's no misunderstanding of what is meant by the body. He defines such, the church. So he is the head of the church, who is the beginning. Christ was in the beginning. This speaks of the fact that he is the fountain of authority. He's the beginning. He's the firstborn from the dead. So there it is again, the firstborn. There were those who were resurrected before Christ. He's not the first one to be resurrected. But it says here that he is the firstborn from the dead. Again, firstborn speaking of a position, speaking of rank. That is, of all those who've been raised from the dead, he is the preeminent one. He is the preeminent one. He is the firstborn from the dead. That, here's the reason, in all things, he might have the preeminence. He's the firstborn. That in all things, he might have the preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in him, his dear Son, should all fullness dwell. Everything that is needed is in him. Why? So that he might have the preeminence. Verse 20, and having made, again, past tense, peace through the blood of his cross, by him, to reconcile all things unto himself. By him, I say, whether they be things in earth or things in heaven. And it continues on. But the point is from verse 13, his dear Son, everything is focused upon those words, his dear Son. It's all about Christ. He is to have the preeminence in all things. This is a truth that we must not forget. It's all about him. Always is. It's never primarily about us. There are a lot of things that concern us, but it's never primarily about us. It's never primarily about our burdens. There are people who think that the whole world is to stop because they have a problem. Everybody's life is to be put on hold because they have an issue. Well, it's not about them. It's not about us. It's always about him. Always about Christ. So we must remember that. Okay, Ben, if you'll come and